What's up, Omnibuddies? Mitch here, and today we are doing an Omnibuddy overview. What are we looking at? We are looking at a Kaiju heavy book, Pacific Rim Ultimate Omnibus. All right, so this book has a little bit of a crazy backstory. So it's a whole bunch of different Pacific Rim books put together. I think there's 4, maybe 5 books in here total. We'll get a full count once I lay this down on the table and get it cracked open for you, because I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's kind of crazy because it was a big Kickstarter that went off, and I was tempted by this Kickstarter. If you know me, you know I love Kickstarters. And I was eyeing this Kickstarter for so long, and I just could not pull the trigger because I think it was a solid $100. And I mean, it's a pretty beefy book, but still $100 is quite a bit of money for it. And so I was like, okay, you know what? It's probably going to be coming out outside of the Kickstarter through, then I can get it through Organic Price Books or IST or DCBS, wherever you buy your books from, maybe Amazon, who knows. But I was like, all right, I'll probably be able to get it later, if not from a online store or in-person brick and mortar store. I could probably pick it up secondhand from someone who backed the Kickstarter, read it, and decided to ditch it. The thing is as of now, I've had this book now for a couple months. I finally just gotten to read it. I've had it for a couple months, and the Kickstarter still hasn't shipped yet to everyone. So it's kind of nuts that I've got this. I pre-ordered the book. I got the book. I sat on the book for like a month and a half, maybe up to 2 months. And people are still, I just talked to someone today saying it was still 2 weeks out as of shooting this video, which is kind of nuts to me. I know sometimes with supply chain issues and all the extras that come into your, that you get with your Kickstarter, sometimes it just backs everything up because you got to pack it all together versus, just getting one single book in the mail is a lot easier. I know that happened with my God Hates Astronauts Kickstarter, where Ryan Brown's like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to hold up Image from shipping the book to retailers, but it's coming. And it came out about 2 weeks before I think we all got our Kickstarters. But that was a little bit different because it was only 2 weeks apart, and 2, it was a trade paperback softcover version versus the hardcover Kickstarter edition. So there's still a bit of a difference there. Weirdly, this one actually, I know that I'm cracking the book open right here, but it said it's a Kickstarter collector edition, which I thought was super strange that this book says Kickstarter collector's edition. And anyways, yeah, super weird. But anyways, I just finished reading this book tonight, right before I started shooting this, and I'm really excited to crack this thing open because I am a huge fan of Pacific Rim. Loved Pacific Rim 1. Pacific Rim 2, while fun, was definitely not to the awesome caliber, in my opinion, that the first movie was. Absolutely loved Pacific Rim The Black on Netflix. I think it's 2 seasons. Season 2, as of shooting this, came out, I think it was 3-4 months ago, and I didn't get to watch it right away. The second season, I didn't get to watch right away, but I finished that. Phenomenal show. Love the movies, love the lore, and so I was super excited to get into the comic because I know that with the Kickstarter coming out, they have, I think, like I said, 3 or 4 books that were in here that have been out before, but they added the Pacific Rim The Black, which is more of a prequel to the Black Netflix show that leads right into that show. So I was super excited to be able to read all of that, get all that backstory, get that brand new book, all that stuff going on. Anyways, I'm starting to ramble. Let's lay this book down and see what it looks like inside. All right, here we have the Pacific Rim Ultimate Omnibus. This comes to us from none other than Legendary Comics. So there is the cover. It's got that nice spot UV treatment on there. It's kind of raised, which is cool. So all all this black is actually raised, which is super cool, except for this part. And then here is the spine. And here is the back. So this retails for $100 USD. You can pick it up in a lot of the online distributors for, you know, 80, 75, 80 bucks, somewhere in there. So save yourself some money that way. It's a pretty nice bind. Pretty cool. Got some nice end sheets. Kind of got the imprint from that thing in there. You can kind of see it, which is cool. And then I will say one really interesting part of this book, let me get this open here, is the ribbon. It's actually two completely different ribbons, black and yellow, which is kind of cool because it matches, you know, these book markers in here. But two completely separate ribbons, which is kind of cool, but also I admit was kind of a pain in the butt to put them in without getting them all cropped, like you can see right here. I'm just trying to wedge them in there and get it closed, and it gets all funky on me. So anyways, yeah, so let's crack this thing open and take a look at it. Pretty cool, pretty well done, and let's get going. So yeah, this is by Travis Beckcham, Joshua Filikov, Zhang Ran, and Kevin Scott. Those are the writers, and there's a whole bunch of artists in there. I will not try to pronounce all their names because I will completely destroy it. Anyways, so it has, man, how many does it even say in here? I think it's 4. No, there's more than that. There's like 5 or 6 stories in here. I can't tell. Anyways, so each one kind of tells a story in a different point. I gotta adjust these lights again. Man, these things are just so, there, get a little bit less glare on there. Each one tells a little bit of a different story of the kind of a perspective of what's going on in the timeline and all that. And it does a really good job keeping you up. So this is 0 year. So this is like when the first kaiju arrives and what happens in San Francisco. So this is August 10th, 2013. And kaiju arrives and what they go through with the first kaiju, taking him down, fighting him. Pentecost, you know, finding, you know, as one of the first Jaeger pilots, and how they all are. It does a really cool, some really cool stuff with the drift too, by the way. Really enjoy how they demonstrate what the rift is like, and it's a little bit different for each pair, which is kind of cool. Yeah, they do a really good job jumping between real life and the rift, and you're never really too lost. Sometimes the panels are a little bit wonky with these huge fights, which, I mean, the splashes are just, this isn't a full splash, but there's a nice full splash for you. Try not to get glare on it, but they do a pretty good job leading you through all these full splashes. Some of the action gets a little bit crazy with there's some full splash pages. Let's see if I can find them. Let's see. Some of this, oh man, now of course I'm saying this, and now I'm having a hard time finding an example, but there's a whole bunch of like places you're jumping around between, and the kaiju and the Jaegers are fighting, and it gets a little bit hard to kind of track the action and what's actually going on. I had to rely on the dialogue to kind of tell what was going on. So that was my only real issue with the book. It got a little bit wonky with that. But there's some really cool stories in here, backstories on Pentecost, what they went through, different Jaeger pilots, you know, some of the like big name Jaeger pilots that they hit up, and talk about how they met and became pilots, and, you know, their downfall, don't they survive kinds of things, and just the heroics that they go through, which is pretty cool. Really cool to see. I mean, some of these kaiju are just bananas. Super fun. Let's see. Let's get to the next part. Some of this water stuff too, this underwater these water fights are just insane. Really cool. But yeah, let's see. So cool. Yeah, I think this is some of my favorite art is when in these earlier stories, kind of this painted stuff. Aftermath was a really cool section too, talking about like ex-Jaeger pilots trying to find some parts. You obviously meet up with Hannibal Chow again, and see what's happening with him. Because I guess that's a spoiler, but it's not really a spoiler because he's just right front and center of the story, that he survived his little situation he had with one of the baby kaijus from, I think it was Pacific Rim 2, I think it was. But not without his issues or anything like that. So I guess that's a minor spoiler, but not really, because it's, yeah. Anyways, some really cool stuff. They go into how he survives it and what happens there. Try to skip it so you don't get too much spoiling. Yeah, so this is the Pentecost, and talking about Boyega. I forgot what's his actual name, but yeah, his last name Pentecost. So talking about him, what he's going through, and as a son growing up without his dad, but his dad was a big, superhero amongst everyone, kind of a thing. This art was cool. Not really my jam, this kind of art style, but it wasn't too bad for me. It wasn't like take me out of this whole story or anything, but it was, from having, this kind of art to this kind of art was a little bit jarring, but it goes book by book, so you kind of get used to it, I suppose. But it was still fun. Really cool story. This is telling the story of, I think her name's Amara, and she is also the other character from Pacific Rim 2, and telling her story a little bit more, fleshing it out, and how she learns to make Jaegers, kind of, because you don't really find out too much about that in the movie, so it kind of goes into her backstory, which is super cool. Has a fun little death race type situation going on too. And then this was actually the most interesting section for me, I think, besides the first quarter of the book, which was more on like what happened when the kaiju first arrived, and designing the first Jaeger and getting the interface, the drift, and all that set up. That was really cool to see. This, I absolutely loved the Netflix series, so the Blackout was awesome to see the whole situation leading up to what happened in Australia with the blackout and just kind of losing the entire continent. So I would say, you can read this first before you go watch the Netflix show. It's not like they're not gonna spoil each other or not. I guess knowing what happens in the Netflix show and where they're at, you kind of know where this is gonna end up. But both were really cool in their own right, and you don't really, they don't necessarily totally interconnect. None of the characters, I believe, that are in this story are in the Netflix one, but it's telling about the struggle and with the kaiju in Australia, and some really cool storytelling here. Some heartbreaking stuff with family and kids, and if you watch the Netflix show, boom, there you go. These guys show up. Super cool. Also, the Netflix show, we'll jump back. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it or not, but the Sisters of the Kaiju, I think it is. Oh man, I don't remember exactly. I think it was in his story. I think it was in Hannibal's story. The Sisters of the Kaiju. Let's see if I can flip through it really quick. But some interesting stuff with them, and there they are, Sisters of the Kaiju. Oh yeah, I think that's her name. Anyways, some really cool stuff, backstories that all these are being told about, and yeah. So all in all, art's super cool. Great bind quality of this book too, which is awesome. Try not to spoil anything. There you go. Bonus materials, we got Tales from Zero Year, Tales from the Drift, Aftermath, Amara, and Blackout. Yeah, so we got 5 sections. I guess these kind of blended together a little bit, or these two kind of blended together a little bit, Tales from the Drift and Aftermath. That's what I was thinking there was 4. But you got a whole gallery, cover gallery, and some script stuff, which is cool, seeing the process. And then we got some stuff on Kaiju, which is cool. Some more cover art from the different books, character designs. Really, really nice stuff. More Kaiju and Ronin Gallery, which is awesome. Let's see. I didn't notice this when I was going through, but yeah, it's going book by book, which is super cool. I like that. I guess that makes sense because each one was like some different creators. So it makes sense to separate the cover art and character design galleries and all that stuff by book. That's cool. Yeah, and then decent little end sheets. Nothing too crazy, but very cool. Anyways, that is a quick look at the Pacific Rim Ultimate Omnibus by Legendary Comics. All right, so that was a quick look at Pacific Rim, the Ultimate Omnibus. Like I said, it was super cool. Some of the art was a little bit not my style, but still pretty good. I mean, everyone's style and tastes are a little bit different, so I can't really ding it for being bad art because it's just not my taste. Some of it wasn't my taste. I think it was that second to last story wasn't really my taste, but kind of my style that I enjoy. But it was still good art, so if that makes sense. But overall, that book was super fun. When I first opened it and I was flipping through it, when I was doing some photo bait for it I think about a month ago or something like that, for my Instagram account. If you're not following me on Instagram, I do a ton of photo bait over there. Go check it out. Anyways, when I was flipping through, I'm like, man, there's not a lot of Kaiju action or not a lot of Jaeger action in here. But upon reading it, there was actually quite a bit of action going on, but there was a ton of cool character and lore development and world building. Really cool stuff, especially if you've watched both movies and watched the show. There were some really cool tie-ins with the witches and that whole cult that follows the Kaiju. I think it's the Sisters of the Kaiju, something like that. Really cool lore that they go into in like not necessarily the creation, but almost their advent of when they're coming up as a clan or a sect, religious cult, whatever you want to call them. Really cool stuff in there. Cool backstories for characters from Pacific Rim 2. Really cool backstory for the original Pacific Rim. Just a lot of stuff in there. And I tore through this in I think 3 nights and just absolutely ate it up. Really enjoyed the book. I mean, if you like Pacific Rim, you cannot go wrong with the Pacific Rim, the Ultimate Omnibus. I cannot stress that enough. It expands the world and it tells some really cool stories that, about the Jaegers fighting. It's got cool stuff about the Kaijus at the end and all that. So super cool book. Now I'm starting to ramble, so I'll just wrap it up. Make sure if you do want to purchase it, hit up this channel sponsor, Organic Price Books. Use code Omnibuddy for $2 off every order, just like every week I say this. Or if you're going to order 3 or more books, use code Omnibuddy, ship it together, all one word. Save 5% on your whole order. That all ships together. So if you're pre-ordering, be super careful because you're going to be waiting for your other books for that pre-order to come out. So try and group those accordingly. So if they're all in stock, then hit it up with that code and save a bunch of money. Support the channel, support a great small business like OPB, and get some great prices, great shipping, great customer service for yourself. All right, that's it. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, do all those things, but comment. What is your favorite? You know what? Let's leave it in. So what's your favorite Kaiju movie? We'll throw, is it Godzilla? Is it Kong? Which year? Which movie franchise? Do you like the new Kong vs. Godzilla? Do you like the old school ones? What's your favorite ones? Do you like Pacific Rim? Are there other ones? Is it just all about the anime? fights for you, let me know in the comments. Super interested to talk some kaiju with you. All right, that's it. Take care. Stay cool.